and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 437. Only thing I have today, Bruce, I wanted to give everybody a heads up. I recognize a lot of the faces that were on our first investor education call. I don't know what we're calling it, but that's, to me, that's what it was. Our really great investor session with Andy Tolbert. And if you were on that, it will be posted soon on our website. If you want to watch it again, a few people mentioned that. If you weren't on it, it'll be posted on our website. It's a good opportunity to see what you missed. It went a little over 2.5 hours, and mainly because there were so many questions from the group. So I think there's probably 40 minutes worth of questions. So it was really, really good session, worth watching. That's all I've got, Bruce.
All right. Perfect. Well, we already have a hand. I want to tell everyone how you can participate in this call. If you're here live on Zoom, I want you to go down to the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, click reactions and raise your hand. We will take your questions, your comments, your success stories, different things like that. We want to hear from you guys today over the next hour. We do this every single Thursday live on Zoom. If you're listening after the fact and want to know how to join, you just go on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Eastern time to alltheleads.com/live. And you can partake in this free mastermind call for those of you that are in or want to get into the probate space with your real estate business. If you're watching via live stream, that would be on Facebook or YouTube. You can chat your questions in. You don't have to be here live to get your questions answered. You can chat those in underneath of the live stream. Just go to the chat feature. Those questions are going to come to us, and we'll be able to answer your questions. So I'd want to welcome everyone that's here. I'm excited for a good call. And without further ado, let me go ahead and go to our friend Winston Covington. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Winston.
Got it. Thanks, Bruce. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, I just wanted to take a minute. It's not really probate related, but it could be. And just piggyback on what Jim just said. I've been in the business a long time. I've been investing for a long time, helping investors for a long time, REO stuff for a long time. I actually took a couple pages of notes on the class from yesterday, and I was impressed. Andy is very sharp, great instructor. I learned some things that I did not know that'll definitely help me in my future investing, my clients in their investing. And just, again, wanted to reinforce what Jim said. Great class. Listen to it. Tune in next time because it's well worth the time invested. That was
amazing.
Good. Thank you. That's great. Appreciate it.
I wish I could have made it. It sounds like I missed some stuff that I need to go listen to.
It was good. It was good.
Winston, about the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, I thought, wow, this is pretty basic. But I'm like you. There are a lot of things I had forgotten that I maybe knew years ago. And there's a lot of new stuff that I really wasn't aware of. A lot of times we leave things to our mortgage broker, to other people that we really probably should have at least a basic understanding of. And she did a really good job of covering a lot of material in very much in depth, but very understandable. So
I have to agree there, Jim. I always take the point of view that if you can pick up 1 or 2 really good nuggets, in a webinar or a session like yesterday, that is well worth the time. And with what I learned, I definitely learned some things that'll help me in the future. So again, great program. Would encourage everybody to attend.
So Winston, since yours is the only hand up, what's your business look like? I know you're real estate broker, correct, or agent?
Actually, I was a broker in Utah. I've been an agent in California, and I just kind of left it at that. I could have got my broker's license, but they like to shoot at brokers out here. So I want to keep the liability down. But right now, I will say that I'm busy. I just took a great new listing for $1,595,000. We have a lot of people interested, but the volume of business is way down, even for the guys that have been doing it a long time. Our normal inventory in Orange County, which is the county between LA and San Diego, I just gave a talk on this yesterday at a BNI group. It's normally about 7,500 with the active listing inventory, condos, townhouses, and single families. We are barely over 2,000. So we are less than a third okay, what normal is. And what we're seeing is a lot of activity, not as crazy as what it was last spring when rates were low back in 2022. We're in the high sixes, low sevens right now out here. Median price is $1,256,000. So that really kind of limits the affordability. Mm-hmm. But millennials are coming out of the woodwork. They're buying, properties are selling quickly. It's multiple offers. We're not seeing, bids coming in 100, 200,000 and more above full list right now. Easy to win. You're at full price and a little bit more. And average marketing time, I think 30 days is a long time, but the local economist says usually things are selling in about 40 days or less, which is a pretty hot seller's market. So even though the numbers are down because of inventory and the press seems to jump all over that, but they're down because the inventory is down, but people are buying and it's happening and properties are appreciating.
Amazing. And so is this the reason because of the tightened inventory that you started investing, or did you start investing a long time before that?
I know. I started my serious stage of investing years ago because I was looking towards the day that I wanted to not so much retire, because I always want to stay busy. My dad lived to be 103 and he always had a purpose, even up to 100, to something to achieve every day. But just looking towards the day I was semi-retiring, and I have a special needs daughter that I'm investing for her future as well. So that's been my motivation, and I would love to do more. In fact, Jim, I have a call out to you. I don't know if you got the message. We'll talk later on, but yeah, I enjoy that. I enjoy the opportunities that probate bring as well, and that's one of the nuggets that I got yesterday. It'll help me in the future.
Yep.
I did not get it, Winston. I'm out of town. I'm at one of my vacation homes. So send an email if you would, Jim,
okay.
Jim@alltheleads.com, and I'll connect with you. If you left it on my office phone, I probably did not get it. So
all right. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Sure.
Winston, it's good to hear from you, and I want everyone to know, follow what Winston started to do. And if you're a real estate broker, you guys need to, or agent, you guys need to be finding opportunities to invest. There's a lot of good opportunities in the probate space, good opportunities floating out there in general to invest. And if you don't know how to do that, yesterday's class and the next time they teach that class will be good opportunity for you to jump in there. On the flip side, I talked to a ton of investors that are coming into all the leads, and they're getting ATL probate leads, and they don't have partners in the real estate space. If you're an investor, you need to be either partnering with someone in the real estate space as an agent, or potentially even going and getting that license. It's really powerful. You're leaving a lot by limiting yourself to just being a realtor or just being an investor. You're really limiting your business a little bit. You'll still be successful in this space, but I go out of my way to encourage people not to limit themselves. And if you're an investor and don't want to go slinging houses, being the traditional broker, you don't have to be. At least go partner with a good agent like Winston, or like some of the other folks that you're going to see on this call. They're great resources for you if you don't wear both hats in your business.
And Bruce, while we're talking about it, Belinda is asking, what course are you talking about? So Belinda, you've been around a long time. I would say read your emails. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah. I know how busy you are, but it did. We've been talking about it for a few weeks. It's Andy and Tim Tolbert are teaching a new class that's free to all of our subscribers on real estate investing. And the first one was yesterday. Now it's only going to be once every 6 months. They are having follow-up programs, like they're doing a virtual bus tour to anybody who showed up yesterday, which I'm definitely going to be on that. But Belinda, just go probably by day's end. Eric will have it posted in our website. The same place you see the mastermind calls. It'll either be under training or it'll be under archive. It'll be posted there. You'll be able to watch that Zoom podcast.
Wonderful. All right, guys, I'm going to remind everyone, chime in with your questions, your success stories. We want to hear from you all. And if you're not here live, in other words, if you're not on Zoom, You can ask your question under the live stream on YouTube or Facebook. Obviously, if you're listening after the fact, we might not see those questions right away. But if you're here right now, we want to hear from you guys. I want to briefly kind of talk to you all about not overcomplicating your business. And this is certainly not the first time that I have jumped in and talked about this, but so often I see people that get into probate and then leave probate, and it's mainly because they were trying to overcomplicate things, or they felt like it needed to be more complicated than it is. They thought that they needed the big sophisticated YouTube channel, and that they needed a 89 touch mail campaign, and that they had to be a master on the phone. All those things can come and probably should come along in your business over time, but you don't have to start there. This business is quite simple. You just engage in meaningful conversations with people going through the process. It starts with a really short mailing campaign. And then pick the phone up. If you're going to mail, you should probably send folks to a website in case they're just checking you out secretly. And that's it. That's it. You want to add some sophistication into your business later, be my guest. We're here to teach you that. I'm here to teach you that. But you don't have to start there. Just get some basic small activities going, and you'll be in really good shape. I'm looking at some friends that are here: Ken Bloomberg, David Pinnell, Roger Lacey. I can't even call out all the names of the people that I know are doing this, that are here live on this call, and they've been doing this for a long time. The business can be quite simple. You just have to take those small activities, and don't let the complexity of what your business can scare you from doing the basic things today.
One of my original mentors in the business, I probably mentioned this before, but there was three things that he always drove home that I still remember. He always said, things are a lot less complicated. They're a lot simpler than we think they're going to be, or than we try to make them. They're always harder than we think they're going to be, even though they're simple. And it always takes longer than we want it to. And I've always kind of remembered those three things, and it avoids a lot of frustration along the way. So if there is a tendency to overcomplicate, it's human nature. There really is. So great advice.
Yep. Barbara has sent a message in and asked, is it true that after 2 years after the loss of the loved one, so after the death, you don't have to open an estate? And I'm assuming, Barbara, you mean probate. You don't have to open probate, and you can buy directly from the deals without dealing with probate. And the answer to that is it depends. It depends on what state you're in. Very, very heavily what state you're in. Barbara, I don't know what state you're in, but I'm assuming that if you have read that or seen that, you're likely in a state that may allow real estate, specifically real estate, to avoid probate if it's been 2 years since the loss of the loved one. The majority of states in the U.S. don't do that, but there are some that do. And it's normally not all of the assets. It's typically just real estate if that's a state that you're in. But please double check that. Honestly, you can always go out and sign a contract. And if the attorney finds out that it needs to go through probate, you can start the probate process. You don't have to. One thing that a lot of people don't realize, and this is more of an error misconception than a misconception with our subscribers. And if this is something that you were worried about personally, you should know that this is totally a misconception. You do not have to wait till probate is final and closed to sell or buy real estate out of the estate. Now, if real estate goes into probate, and it's heavily involved in probate, and probate maybe takes a year, the family can sell that asset, sell that property. They just can't access the cash from the sale until probate is over. And there are ways that they could pull real estate out of probate. There's a lot of different things. But to Barbara's point, even if the property does have to go through probate, it doesn't mean that you can't buy that property or you can't list that property. It just means that the heirs aren't going to be able to access the money from it until probate closes. So it shouldn't impact your business at all, Barbara.
Bruce, I see we have other hands up, and you reminded me of something that I forgot to mention. I had a really great conversation one of our long-term 8-year subscribers in New York who was thinking about taking a break because he said, my courthouse is so backed up, a significant percentage of these places are being foreclosed before the probate can be completed. And I had him check, and he verified that New York, like Florida, you can carve the real estate out. And he
Yep.
did not know that. He did not know that. So I said, boy, what an opportunity now. Apparently the people you're talking to don't know that either. And nobody else is mentioning it to them. So man, you come along and save the day. Good opportunity to buy some really good deals, and a great opportunity to take some listings because you're the only one that's given them that option. So
Yeah.
no matter how often we talk about it, everybody should check and see if their state has that mechanism, and have that in your arsenal when you're talking to people as something you can offer them.
And if you don't know for your state, so I'm in North Carolina, and I didn't know this for a couple of years. I used to just go ahead and sell the real estate and tell people that they couldn't access the money from it till probate closed. But there's a very easy mechanism here where real estate can just get plucked right out of probate, and a lot of times not even go in. And there's a few exceptions to that where it has to go into probate. But just go Google, does real estate have to be included in probate in New York or Texas or Florida or California or whatever? Just Google it, and you'll find some attorney blogs and videos a lot of times that talk about how to take real estate out of probate so that it's really not impacted by any delays on the probate side of things. And it shouldn't be impacted anyway, but it certainly makes it easier if the real estate isn't involved in probate at all. Let's go to Dave Pinnell. Dave, good to see you, man.
Hey, good. I forgot my train of thought, but I just wanted to say that you just never know who you're going to meet when you were giving your speech earlier.
You don't know who you're going to meet.
I mean, I met the best people in the world through this process, and you just, that's why you can't be afraid of making these phone calls, because the people that are ready and need your service are not going to ignore you or be mean to you.
No,
if you could just break through.
It's a matter of finding people that need you, right? Sometimes you have people that might not want to deal with what they're dealing with, but do they need help? Regardless of what they want to have to handle? Yeah, they need help. And if they need it, then you're a lifesaver in a lot of cases. What's business look like for you this year so far? Dave, you're back on mute for some reason. Hold on a second. There we go. Go ahead and unmute yourself. What's business look like this year?
Our second quarter wasn't that great at all. I saw someone else post on the Facebook that they weren't responding to letters. We haven't got a whole lot of good leads this second quarter. Just closed 2 probates. We're a little over 20. So it's
second quarter wasn't so great. We've only done 20 deals this year. Probates.
Yeah. We like to be around 50 or 60.
I saw that coming. A bad quarter for Dave is a good career for some agents.
It's nice. I mean, we've built a business around this probate niche, and we continue to do it. And I'm always trying to find ways to get organic leads, or leads through the phone calls or the letters. It's just if you have all 3 of those things firing off, I mean, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
just,
when things like mail slow down for people, that's a good opportunity to, you could look at it a couple of different ways. You could look at it and say, hey, you know what, maybe it's just a bad month or 2. I've run through bad months or 2 where mail wasn't working or phone calls slowed down a bit. It doesn't always mean it's a trend. Sometimes it's kind of the way the wave set is working. So you go out in the ocean and there's wave sets, and anyone that's been in real estate long enough knows that wave sets happen. And what that looks like for me is maybe all my clients are in one city in my market for 3 months. And I think, well, I guess this is where all my clients are coming from. And then all of a sudden they pop up in another area, or seems like they're all in a certain price point, or they're all sellers or all buyers. So it could just be a wave set that you're going through. It could also be a good opportunity for you to go take a look at your letters and say, okay, can I simplify the content of some of my letters? Can I use this as an opportunity to simplify the message and drive it to a website or a video series? Because I know you're big on video.
Yep.
So what adjustments can I make? And that really is one of the things that you want to do when when things seem to start shifting on you, is look for those adjustments
and stay consistent, because we went through when the rates increased. For some reason, it stopped for us in November, December last year, and then January, February, March, we have all these people contact us ready to sell their houses, and then it kind of died off in May and June, and we had 2 lingering deals that just closed. One, we had dismissed the probate. I got a good video from that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, just content about, and your letters too. We're adjusting to all these success stories now, letting those lead and having bulk email instead of just one letter. So we're going to see how that works too with the QR codes.
Yep. So real quick, I want to say this to someone with their hand up. I'm going to introduce Ken Bloomberg real quick to those of you that don't know Ken. He's been around with us for a while. Ken, you popped your hand up. Ken's going to be doing some peer coaching for all the leads. And because of that, Ken, you have standing permission to tell Bruce to shut up, that you have something to say. You don't have to raise your hand and wait in line.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, that's fine. Hey, thank you. Looking forward to the opportunity. And guys, it's so simple to function at a very high level in this business. But to these guys' points, like simplification, just have a base, which is your letters and your phone calls. Like that's it. And anything else in addition that you want to stack on, that's fine. But if you're on the phone 2 hours a day, there's no question you should have 2 to 3 deals going every single month. The problem is some of these deals get complicated with moving cars off or cleaning furniture, et cetera. And then we just get, or I get complacent, and then I stop making my phone calls. And then that's the only thing that's going to cause the lag time, because there's such a lead time to get these people through the probate process. But if you just are consistent with those phone calls, either 3 or 5 days a week, business will continue to roll in, and then you just build out from there. But you got to have your anchor to keep that consistency.
Absolutely. I like the way that you put that, your anchor. And if you do stop making your calls, you do have lag in your pipeline. So Ken, making your calls 2 hours a day, that's incredible, by the way. That's amazing. Some of you guys are going to go, I'm just going to struggle for 30 minutes. Okay, start at 30 minutes, but build the pipeline.
Right. And that's the thing. It sounds like a struggle until you meet these people, like Dave was saying, that are incredible. Like I have a guy, I'm going to go hunting in Montana at his ranch because we developed such a good friendship. Just salt of the earth, great guy. And sometimes, like literally, like I say, 2 hours, but sometimes I'm on the phone with somebody for an hour, because I'm like, I'd rather go super deep with somebody and like know without question that I have a strong connection with that person, rather than just like, oh, let me send you some comparable sales. Okay, I gotta go. I gotta run to the next appointment. And they have no sense of who you are. Like, you got to go deep with these people to discover what amazing people they are. So when I get on the phone with somebody, like, I mean, if I get the sense they want to go, of course, I'm intuitive about that and I let them go. But otherwise, like, I want to go deep with them So when I get off the phone with them, I'm like 100% they remember me. When I call again in a week to follow up on those comparable sales, like they're going to want to pick up the phone because we had such an amazing conversation. So the calls aren't hard. It's the mental mindset of being afraid or feeling like somebody's going to reject you or all that stuff. That's the hard thing. But once you get past that, the phone calls are like almost the most enjoyable part of the day. Like, because the clutter of cars on a property and all that's work. And then you're dealing with like stress and trying to coordinate. The phone calls are just, can be very enjoyable, really.
Yeah, that kind of what you and by the way, so Barbara, Dr. Larry, Carrie, Mashid, Belinda, we're gonna come to you guys here in just a couple of minutes. But Ken just did hit on some of your calls. You go an hour long and you go really deep because when you hang the phone up, you want them to know that they know that you are the person for them, investor, realtor, whatever hat you're going to wear. And it takes me back long before I was doing probate. I used to work buyer leads. And so these would be coming in on Zillow and pay-per-click leads and different things like that. And I had a goal. And this is some of you that go, I can't talk to someone for an hour. You don't have to start there. Just like we said a second ago, Ken does 2 hours of calls a day. You don't have to start there. I'd love for everyone to get there, but start with 30 minutes if you need to. Same thing if you're worried about going on the phone for an hour with someone. I don't know what to say. I can't carry a conversation. Aim for 15 minutes. So my rule when I was working buyer leads is I wouldn't allow myself to ask them for an appointment until they were on the phone for 15 minutes with me. 15 minutes. I tried everything I could to extend that call. And most of the time I could take someone that was cold and dry in the beginning of a call. And about that 7 or 8 minute mark, something would break in the conversation and all of a sudden they'd open up. And that's when I knew I had them. And so if you guys are talking on the phone to people that are a little bit dry, yes, no answers, I guarantee you're going to hit a point if you can extend that call long enough by asking the right questions. And David's a great question asker where you're going to break through that rapport barrier and people are going to open up, and then you're going to have no problem going an hour. And they're going to have no problem going an hour with you, and you're going to hang the phone up and you're going to know that you have business. And not only that you have business, but you have a friend, because that's really that's probably more valuable, truthfully, than just making a check off of someone.
Yeah. And that's sometimes why I like to make calls a little bit later in the evening, because you catch somebody in the midday and then, it's going to be a little shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're struggling a little bit more to make that connection with them. But you call them in the afternoon, they've settled in. I mean, some of these people are lonely. They're emotional. They lost somebody. And you call them a little later in the day and you spend that kind of time with them, back to like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I mean, cliche, but it gets to the root of the truth that when you connect with them, then all of a sudden they, like Bruce is saying, they open up to you and they're like, yes, I need help and I have this struggle and this. And then, the whole conversation completely changes.
Yep.
So
I had a lady yesterday that she's on the probate list. Her mom died 3 years ago, and she texted me, or she sent me an email last week about her taxes not being paid. She wants to sell one lot of the 3 lots. She lives in a house in the middle lot, and I got over there, and she doesn't have AC in the house. It's really sad. It's really hot in here, Texas. So she invites me to sit in her car with her. And I sat there for an hour and 10 minutes talking to her about the different possibilities of selling the lot and the house. And then at the end of it, she's like, I really do want to just go on a cruise and get out of here. I'm 55 years old. She started crying. I don't really deal with emotions too well. So I just kind of just, pat her on the shoulder. But she wants to go cruising. And I told her I'd work out a deal with the builder that she could stay in the house until Haltom got the zoning correct. So it could give her a year in the house of free rent. So it's just, You know, it's got to get people out of that quicksand.
Yep.
And meet them on their level. Meet them on their level. If you can meet them, get that appointment, get the face to face, belly to belly.
Mhm.
But making those phone calls and sending those letters are golden.
So it's one of
nice.
the reasons why we want to future pace people when we talk to folks, because they're really just like that. This lady that Dave was talking about was stuck in her current emotional state. Life is hard, loss of a loved one, dealing with heat, dealing with probate, dealing with all these things, and people. It's no wonder that they can't always, even if there's real estate that needs to be sold or other things that you need to help them with or that they need help with, they don't always get there emotionally for a little while. And so we've got to, through conversation and dialogue, we need to take them out of the current feelings that they have, feelings of loss, grief, anger, overwhelm, whatever it is, and recognize that that's what they're going to be feeling at first. And when someone says they don't need anything, they don't know what they're going to do with the house yet, they're talking out of their current emotional state. They're talking out of the state that they're in, where they're just stuck in the nuance of probate. And a lot of times they're not really thinking about it. And an hour-long conversation in a car gave the woman the permission and the space to actually think about the real estate that she needed to deal with. It wasn't that you talked her into it. Maybe not. You didn't talk her into doing something she didn't want to do. You just gave her the space to think about it, where she probably hasn't had that for months.
Yeah. One of my buddies say to me this week, one of my friends said to me, David, you know what you're really good at? You're really good at, I'm going to think about it. He says something very good about, I'm not on here. I talk a lot sometimes, but in on appointments, he said, you're really good at convincing people to do something that they're not ready to do. You know, it's not like I'm trying to close them or especially in probate. What I've learned is to ask questions and just listen. And then my selfish goal is to get a good testimony video at the end at closing. Mm-hmm. So I want to build that story up too for them and how success they, ride their success through mine. So
yep.
Yeah,
you're giving them space to make decisions that they wouldn't have made without the space that you're giving them. That's what yeah.
And David, I was just going to say, I'll bet as good as you are at asking questions, you're not convincing them, you're letting them convince themselves. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but you're not telling them this is what you could do. You're asking questions that they come to that conclusion.
Yeah, it's always that pain. If you ask the questions about the pain, and it just they start hearing them talk about it, and it becomes their idea.
Sure,
that's anybody. I talk my 3-year-old now into doing stuff, and then he talks me into stuff too.
I appreciate that.
Helps.
David, you can chime in whenever you want. Ken, same with you. I've had a bunch of questions pour in, and I want to go to what I truly hope that I'm not completely messing your name up. I think it's Mashid, but
yes,
please correct me. Okay, perfect.
It is Mashid, but you guys can call me Mash for short. It's
Mash.
easier.
All right. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm new to your platform. I signed up end of May, and then I got my June leads, didn't do anything. And then I got my July leads, and I didn't do anything. And then I got an agent-to-agent referral from the office, and it's probate. And I was like, oh my God, I should have looked into this. Now I'm freaking out. What am I going to do? And so forth. But I ended up calling the gentleman, and just like how the other gentleman that was just speaking, I forgot his name, but the call was easier than I thought. I freaked out. It took me like an hour to give him a call. And my best friend in San Francisco is a probate attorney. And I called her, and she's like, all you say, I'm so sorry for your loss of your loved one. May I ask who passed? And he said his father. And then that's where the conversation rolled. And it was very easy. He has a tenant in the property, but the property is having leakage issues. So I told him I know a contractor that's legit. I can take him over this weekend, which I am. And I got in contact with the tenant, and everything is kind of rolling smoothly. And he's the only child, so there's no heirs. And he asked me, what type of probate, he has to go through and stuff. And through my friend, she said, a court confirmation or notice of, and I forgot the term that she said, but he has a will, which is good from his father. And anyways, I'm going there this Saturday, but I didn't ask when we're going to sign a contract, what my commission is. I just didn't feel that I needed to be pushy, like a regular sales call that maybe would pertain. And my husband is a clinical social worker, so that really helps me being very sympathetic. And I also lost my dad 2 years ago. So the reason why I'm also going into probate is because my best friend, who's a probate attorney for the last 20 years, I've never talked about probate because business has been really slow and I've relocated from Los Angeles to Orange County. I decided to talk to her father, who was a broker for over 40 years. And I said, what would you do differently if you were to be in the real estate industry again? And he said, I would have focused on probate because that's consistent business. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to call you guys and stuff, but I lagged it on for 2 months. And then now I'm like, okay, totally serious about it. And I have to say, Liz, your marketing person, amazing. I just called out of the blues. Thank God she was available. We went through the whole setting up my website, do the mailers. I didn't know you guys had different color, envelopes, which is wonderful. We set everything up yesterday and I feel really good about it. So
Incredible. Incredible. So, and you got a deal outside of the list, but that's good. And the thing is these folks, they're ready to talk. If they're not, they're not, but that's not most people. The majority of them have a job to do and they don't know how to do it. And yes, it may be connected to a painful loss. But the overwhelming majority of personal representatives know that they have a job to do and they're not here to pull their emotion into the mix. And I love what your attorney friend said to say is I'm so sorry for your loss. Do you mind if I ask who passed? Great advice. If they don't bring it up on the phone, what I'll do is I'll say, hey, look, I don't know if this was a family member. If it was, I'm really sorry for the loss. What was it someone you were close to? So sometimes I'll say that. And it sounds so good. Your tone is right. I think that you're going to see some success here.
Yes, absolutely. And do you guys have more scripts? Because I was like in panic. So I was like, I have to call this guy right away. Even though it took me an hour, I'm like, I can't see the script. I don't know where it is. And, so can you direct me on where do you guys have scripts?
Sort of.
Okay.
Sort of. Here's the big thing. So I spend a lot of time training on conversations and probate and just different dialogue things. We are currently folding in what used to be Prospecting Mastery, which was a 2-afternoon course on prospecting with a lot of scripts, folding that into a greater probate education series that is going to be launched in August. Now, Probate Foundations is the first stepping stone into that. It's about an hour and 15-minute long class at the beginning of every month. And as a part of that, I give conversation openers. So essentially how to open that conversation and present your services. And most of the time, that's 99% of the battle is how to open the call and present what you're doing without losing someone. And if you get that right, you're good. So maybe ask support to send you the last one, or the next Probate Foundations is coming up, I think, on the 2nd of August. So maybe reach out to support and see if they can send you the last recording, which will have the conversation openers and USP or pitch that you're delivering. Now, if you want to go deeper, there will be a big portion. We're talking 6 to 9 hours of dialogue and crafting your conversation approach in your phone call. And it kind of layer, it's a stepping stone. So it's multiple different classes where you start with some basics. And when you have that, you add a little bit more in and a little bit more in and a little bit more in until you really have a good handle on that. And that's going to be launched in August, probably toward the middle of the month. We don't have a launch date yet, but we will be announcing that launch date next week. So anyone that's looking for a certification course or to go really deep into your probate, be on the lookout, be checking your emails from all the leads next week, and you'll see when that class is going to start. It's going to be a 6-week mastermind, by the way. So 2 classes a week for 6 weeks and really take you guys deep. So be on the lookout.
Got it. And is it to get your certification for probate or no?
There will be a certification with it.
Okay, because I already got my certification through NARS, but I preferred going through you guys and learning more. Okay.
Cool. All right.
You.
Thank you.
Hey, Mash, I wanted to add one encouraging thing. The 2 to 3 months that you haven't worked yet, they're just starting to ripen. You've lost very little by not working them immediately. So those leads are still extremely viable. They may even be more ready to do something than if you'd called them on day one, as long as you get started soon. Don't wait a year. but once you get this first listing, start calling those leads and you'll still do very well with them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In addition to that, I'd like to say also what you just did there is so powerful. You revealed that you just lost somebody 2 years ago, but if you connect with the people you're talking to and you share your experience like that, my mom just went to she was living on her own. She fell down. Now she's in an assisted care. And I had to go visit her, and that's painful. And I feel like I probably am going to lose her pretty soon. And that's, it's sad, and it's a lot of work and confusing and all those things. So when you put yourself out there on a personal level, like there's no way that you're not going to connect with people on a deeper level, because they understand that you have gone through it recently and you're putting your emotions and wearing them on your sleeve. And that's just such a powerful way to connect with these people. Just tell your story. If of course, don't lie, but if you have a story like you lost I think you said your father, let them know how you felt about that and what it took you to go through that.
Yep, exactly. I couldn't agree more. For those that just chatted in about prospecting mastery, I see some chats. Prospecting mastery, we won't be doing a live one this month. If you've already taken it, please ask for the recording from last month, and then be on the lookout for the certification course that's going to include prospecting and a whole lot more really soon. But as far as prospecting mastery goes, if you have taken that, you can get access to the past prospecting mastery classes. If you haven't taken it, you're going to get something even better in August. Okay. Now, Barbara, you chatted a little bit ago about kind of having to wait for probate, and you're in North Carolina. So you are noticing that a lot of the probate cases don't have real estate in the probate. And that's absolutely true. You're in my state. You do not have to put real estate into probate. As a matter of fact, the majority of time, if there is real estate directly tied into the probate case, it's a mistake. So it's someone that put real estate in there on accident. They don't have to put it in unless there are absolutely no assets to cover debts. Okay, so if you have no assets to cover debts, in some cases, the court's going to require you to put real estate into the estate or into probate. But otherwise, if you see real estate actually in probate, in the probate filing, it may have been a mistake that they made. So why would you still get probate leads is because that's an indication of who's probably going to have real estate that they're inheriting, whether that real estate is in the estate or not. 70% of the time they're inheriting or real estate is being transferred. So you need to call those people. They don't know whether real estate's in or out of the estate. They've never done it before. Just so you know, in North Carolina, a lot of times it won't be in the estate. It won't be part of probate. Dr. Larry, so you've got a house under contract with a lady whose mother just passed away and left her house in the will. You're told that this is going to have to go through probate. Is that correct? And are you able to sell it? You 99% of the time can sell the house now while it's in probate, while it's going through probate. Now, they just can't access the funds from the sale. The funds from the sale. So right now it's just an asset, and that asset is hypothetically worth $200,000. And if you were to sell the house, you're transferring that $200,000 in value out of real estate form and into liquid cash form. So that cash just has to stay in the estate in probate. Once probate is settled, then the family can get their money, but you can 99% of the time you can sell the property now. You can settle now. They're just not going to be able to take the money from it. So I wouldn't let that stop you. Now, 1% of the time there's a weird situation and it has to wait till probate's over, but that's a very, very unusual situation. And I would just proceed as though you're going to buy the house and close until an attorney or title company stops you, and know that that's going to happen extremely rarely. Hopefully that helps. Carrie, what are a few things that you can provide probate attorneys to add value and build out your network? You spoke to one that you know, and he asked for some cards after I offered up CMAs to assist with the personal representative's inventory. Okay, so what are you going to offer probate attorneys? I've talked to many dozens of probate attorneys, and almost always they just say, look, take care of my clients and make my job a little bit easier. That's it. So you may offer, if you have time, to courier some paperwork back and forth between them and their client. You may tell them that, look, if there's real estate involved, they don't have to worry about coordinating anything, and their client doesn't have to coordinate anything, that you'll take over the process of coordinating the lawn care and the locksmiths and the evaluations and the property clean out. Just tell them the things that you'll take off of their plate, and then just say something along the lines of this. And some of you don't want to do this, but this is what I do. I do all those things for free. I put food on my plate, put food on my table by selling real estate. So I'm doing all these other ancillary services without an expectation of financial compensation. All I really ask is, if they sell a house, they give me a shot to show them what I can get them. And that's it. So you're offering something of value. And then as far as the attorneys go, I would just make sure that you're in front of that attorney, or at least at their office once a month. You're not going to build a relationship in one single visit. You want to build up name recognition over time. So hopefully that helps. If there's any follow-up questions, you can ask. And I want to take the opportunity to go to Belinda. Belinda, go ahead.
Yes, the question relates to something that I think either Ken or David said a while back. We talked about phone calls. And, I called people, and initially I just got on the phone. I said, we'll give yourself 15 minutes. And believe me, I watched the clock. And after you do that a couple of times, you stop watching the clock, and then you put in more time. But that just kind of got me back onto the phone. But the question is this, though, regarding how many times do you all call like one person as you're trying to reach them? My concern, and maybe it shouldn't be, is I don't want a person to see my number on their call list, over and over and over and over again, as if I'm hunting them. So I just kind of felt that if I called them once a week to try to, actually get through and talk to someone, that may be sufficient. But in general, what do you all do?
So I want to hear from Ken and Dave, but I'm going to tell you what I do. I call right away. So I'm going to call day one. And if they don't answer, I'm not going to leave a message. I'm going to call again the next day. And if they don't answer, I will leave a message. So now they've seen my number twice in 2 days. I'm usually going to call again if they haven't responded about 4 days later. And I'm going to leave a detailed message then, because that's my last of 3 repetitive, fast, short spaced attempts.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave a detailed message there. I'm usually going to try again about 2 weeks later. And, that's now 4 times in a 3-week period. Personally, I'm not going to call them again for about another month, and I'll do
Okay.
monthly
Okay.
after those first 4 times in 3 weeks, or 3 weeks, 4 times in 3 weeks. And then it's just monthly after that.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Ken, David, do you guys have anything different that you do?
I can't say anything that actually works. Just making the phone calls, and then once we put them into our system, it'll sign a task that tells me to call them again. So they just end up on my call list. So I'm not as good as trying to recall them 3 times or in a month. It's just as soon as we do have a conversation with them, I'll put a task where it's usually 21 days out, or depending on the conversation, or if we have an appointment.
If 21 days out, if you've opened the dialogue somehow.
Yeah, or if there's some other difference, if they need more time, or just whatever they say, cut it in half.
Okay.
And try to meet them in person as fast as you can. Like Chad used to train. Try to get in front of them and let them know that you care. There's no rhyme or reason why you get a hold of somebody or when they're ready to go. Some people are ready to go before probate. Some people are ready to go after. The majority of people that we do get are finished with probate, and they get one of our letters. So it's just like Ken said, you got to hit them on multiple platforms, phone calls. I don't agree with doing social media at first if you don't have the phone calls and letters in place.
Yeah.
Because social media is, you're just entertaining them. So if you don't have nothing to attract them to entertain them with, and in your message is, I want to buy the house, I want to be your realtor, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, you need some rapport.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody has their own formula and time frame. Some people are grieving. Some people are. Every now and then you get someone that's like, I'm happy that my family member's gone. I didn't like them. Or in some cases they're relieved the person was suffering. In some cases they're grieving. In some cases they're money strapped and they have to sell right away, whether they want to or not. They have to. In some cases they're sitting on a lot of money and they can afford to hold the house for a year. Everybody has a different formula, and it's your job to be there when their formula when that combination finally unlocks.
And you'll never know unless you call them. Trust me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So get outside your own excuses and make the phone calls. You may talk to 3 out of 100, but it's those 3 are golden. You may talk to more, but that's just.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's not about how many people you talk to. It's about, the really solid conversations. But I would say now, like, I've been doing this about 2 years, I guess. And again, like when I first got the leads, I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, this is so confusing, this spreadsheet, and basically dropped it for like another year until I came back and was like, all right, let me settle in to figure this out. But now I have thousands of leads, right? So I don't care. I'm not concerned about calling too many times. I'm really not, because you keep calling, they keep seeing your number. Eventually they're going to pick up the phone and go, why is this person calling me? I wouldn't leave too many messages. Like I would say 1 every 2 weeks if you're going to leave a message. But
yeah, I tend to not leave messages because I want them to be curious as to who's calling.
I would just say for efficiency, depending on your system, if you're able to drop a message, I like to put it out there what my services are. Again, very empathetically driven, hey, hopefully I'm not catching you too soon, but my condolences if you lost somebody close, but I want to help you, I want to help you through this process, and then tell them, A to Z what I can do for them. But once you have 5 months of these leads, I mean, it's almost like you can't call somebody too much.
Yeah, it's impossible. You've got too many to.
Yeah. Because you just call the current list, that's your priority, in my opinion. Some people like to let it get cold. I like to call the current list immediately. I want to be the first person, again, build that solid connection where they just will turn everybody off. Like, no, I found my person and that's it. Done. But then I'll go down the maybe 5 months back and just call those people too. Not as often, but I'll call them as well. But just consistency of being on the phone and your letters, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get too much in the weeds of when to call or how to call or what time to call. Just make the phone calls.
So
No, I don't, but I have noticed though, if I call later in the day, like Ken said, like between 5 and 7, I usually get more people to pick up, rather than in the middle of the day. And sometimes in the middle of the day, I'll call people and they're actually at work or something like that, or at least they say anyway.
So Belinda, with regard to messages, I like what David and Ken said is you don't want to just bombard them with messages. However, there does come a point when they prove that they're not curious enough to call you back. And if you called someone 2 times or 3 times and they haven't called you back out of curiosity, they're not going to, and you ought to leave a message.
Yeah.
So you might not crush them with messages every single time, but if you've given them a chance to call out of curiosity and they haven't, it's time to adjust that call tactic.
Okay.
Yep. And you could be really generic on one message and you could be pretty detailed on another message. I would usually lead with generic the first time I leave a message. Maybe tell them that it's regarding the estate, but not what I do or why I'm calling. And then maybe the next time, a few weeks later, tell them why I'm calling, what I do, see if that does it.
So are you addressing them specifically? Like, say I'm calling about the state of so-and-so and so-and-so specifically, or are you dropping like a message, a generic message that may say estate, but not mention the particular estate?
Not generic.
Okay, so it's specific to that particular estate.
Yep.
Okay, so you're actually speaking your message in as you're doing your call. You're not like you using a dialer and then
if you want to be efficient, you could do a voice drop through a dialer. That's certainly faster and more efficient. But for me,
but it's generic though.
I want depth versus something fast.
That's fine. That's fine, because I use a one line dialer anyway, because I like to have time to take my notes and all that stuff. I've used 3-line dialers. They're just so fast, and I just don't like them. They're too fast.
Yeah. Yep. Coming up on the top of the hour, I need to go to MASH. I'm going to unmute you. And while you're unmuting yourself, Val-Marie said you still wait until they receive your letter. When they receive your letter before the phone call, it always warms that phone call up. It gives you a nice pattern disruptor where you can call, and instead of saying, hey, you don't know me, but this is who I am, calling about this such and such, you could always say, hey, you might not know me, but I was the person that sent you the letter last week with the brochure in it. Did you open that? And it just, instead of thinking, how do I get you off of the phone, they're thinking more, did I look at that letter? There, it warms that call up if you call after the letter. There's pros and cons to both, but I definitely do like to call after a letter when I'm sending letters. Mash, you there?
Yes. I had a question. My probate attorney friend also told me to reach out to fiduciary professionals, as well as get on the board of, I don't know, is it like lawyers or board of attorneys and stuff like that? What is your
professionals?
State professionals. So what is your recommendation on that? And I did reach out to one fiduciary professional, but she's like, I need an assistant, I need this, I need that, I need to make videos. And I followed up, and I actually, had 2 people go for an interview. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but she just kind of like wanted. And then she spent 3 hours telling me how the realtors out there, are messing up the deals and all of this stuff. But I don't know, she was always like, take, which is fine. But at the same time, I was just like, I'm working for you so hard and you're complaining about the realtors. It would be nice if you gave me an opportunity. But what are your thoughts that.
Sometimes you do end up with a relationship with a taker, and that's just up to you when you're willing to quit, when you've had enough giving, but you should always give first.
Yes, of course.
So the advice, get on the board, or get not onto the board, but join the organization and connect with fiduciaries. That advice is incredible. Go do those things. So I don't disagree with those things at all. I would bend over backwards for a fiduciary or a good attorney to support their business. And I would do that for sometimes a month or two without necessarily expecting anything in return, as long as I feel like there could be something coming back my way. There comes a point when it's gonna go a lot longer than that. Every now and then you just have a taker.
Got it.
Got to use your judgment to figure out who that is.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Jeff, how do you, and we're going to go just a couple of minutes long, a couple of questions chatted in. So how do you deal with a family member that's pushing back on a sale, although while the personal representative is trying to sell? So that family is going to have to come to a conclusion. You may want to get involved and basically just tell the family member that doesn't want to sell, tell them, their options. So if I've had family members that don't want to sell real estate, a lot of times I'll call and I'll go, hey, my goal is not to just get a real estate listing or a real estate transaction. My goal is to help the family accomplish what they want. And your brother looks like he's wanting to sell. I understand you're not, correct? Yeah. Okay. So if you want to keep the property, here's a couple of the options. You can refinance. In which case I can get you a really good lender. You can do this, you can do that. I'll just give them options on how to keep the property. And at least that way I don't have an enemy that I'm fighting against. And in many cases, they can't refinance. They don't qualify for the property. So I've taught someone how to keep the property themselves. That way it accomplishes the needs and the wants of the personal representative and other family members that don't want to hold the property long term. And maybe it works. If it doesn't work, then at least I was an asset to the person that wanted to keep the house. And when they realize that they have to sell, I've been someone that built a relationship with them. Let me see here. I've got a couple of other questions. How frequently should you call? Hopefully we answered that. If not, everybody has a little different formula. My formula is about 4 times in that first 3 weeks. And then after that, I just call monthly. Everybody's going to be different. It sounds like Ken's about every 2 weeks for a long period of time. That is certainly good. You have to figure out kind of your own formula of how often you're going to call, but I do every 4 times in 3 weeks and then monthly afterward. And you want to vary your call times up as well. So if you've called someone 3 times from 5 till 7 p.m. and they haven't answered, you might want to mix in a morning call session or an afternoon call session, just to see if maybe that person that's tied up in the evening might be open in the mornings or open in the afternoon. Right. And that looks like I've gotten everyone. By the way, Ron, you mentioned that Property Plus training was not available. It's a message that said it violated YouTube's terms. I've had that happen so many times with videos that don't violate their terms. It's just an algorithm. It's something in their settings. Eric or Alyssa, please see if we can access that video and get it reloaded if we can. So hopefully that can get fixed soon, Ron. With that said, let's kick it over to Jim.
All right, another great call. Just a reminder of something we started with. If you have not watched the investor training video and you would like to, it will be posted on our site in the next couple of days. Hope to see many of you on that virtual bus tour. But as I always do, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to particularly thank those that actively participated. I want to challenge each of you, take one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Take care. See you same time next